In today's episode, once again, we speak to the amazing Jeff Lerner. Jeff is the founder and the CEO of Misnomer Co. Misnomer.co. Let me start that again. In today's episode, we speak once again to Jeff Lerner. Jeff is the founder of and the CEO of Misnomer.co and leads the fractional CMO practice for the company's global clients. Over his 20-year career, he has driven significant growth for startups and Fortune 500 companies alike, securing over 390 million in venture capital, orchestrating 3 successful acquisitions totaling nearly $2 billion and generating more than 500 million in revenue through diverse acquisition channels. Let's speak to Jeff and find out how to build relationships to build business. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And once again, we have the wonderful Jeff Lerner. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Jeff, for coming again. We had such a fantastic conversation on Friday Feature. We had to have you back for Money Talkies. So, Jeff, once again, people have heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Thank you. So I am a fractional CMO, which means I work with a variety of different clients, often in the startup or small business space, to help them with their brand, marketing, go-to-market sales strategies, to essentially try and put their products and services out there to the world so that hopefully we can make the world a better place.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I know you've got a book that you wrote. We mentioned that in Friday Feature. So can you just mention your book again, please?
Sure. The book is called The Power of Relationships in Professional Growth.
Wonderful, because we are talking about today how to build relationships to build a business. Now, before we actually talk about this topic, tell me, Jeff, why do you believe relationships are so important if you want to have a successful business?
You know, it's when you think about how businesses, especially small ones like mine, and solo entrepreneurs and individuals, the easiest way to grow a business is through referrals and through relationships. The only way to accomplish that and to achieve that is by building the foundation of these great relationships, which allow people and organizations to grow and thrive because they're being introduced to others, even if they're not asking for it. And that's the true sign of what relationships can do. It's the same with, you go back to your, I was dating before like apps existed. So like that didn't, it's been a long time. So we didn't have, apps to find people. But you would ask your friends, hey, do you know someone that you could set me up with? You're almost asking for a referral. You're asking for them to vouch for you in the dating world. The professional world is not all that different in that people are going to be considerably more likely to recommend and want to share you with others when they have an experience with you and they have a pre-existing relationship that they can vouch for.
Right. So I completely agree with that. I think any business, regardless of the service or the product you provide, it's all about building that relationship. And it's building that relationship with your colleagues, with your friends, with your even with your competition, and especially with your clients. And that's how you build any business. And that's what I've seen. And when I've gone into my new business, previously the people who I bought the business from, they would just pick up, they won't even bother, spending that much time on the phone. They would pick up the phone if someone called, but they wouldn't pick up the phone and call themselves. And they would just sit behind an email and just email everybody now. And I found that really interesting because I'm younger than them, obviously a lot younger than them. And I am from the new age where, we text and we phone more. I mean, we phone less, we text more and email more.
Yeah.
Whereas I would have thought they've come from a background where they used to doing a little bit more, face to face and, normal work. But I found that a lot of people, as email took over, hid behind the email and stopped building that relationship. And a lot of the clients, potential clients who are good clients, fell off. When we went to rebuild our relationship with these old clients, we started talking, and I've got a BDM now, and we are actually actively going out and seeing them, making that personal contact, building those relationships, exactly what you just said, because we are reintroducing the new face of the business, the new side of the business, and the fact that we are different, and we're focusing on not on the sales, but actually the relationship with those individual clients, hoping to build up sales through them, but not also that, but referrals to, refer to other people, build other relationships and so forth. And that's why firsthand I know how important this is. And that's why I thought it was a great topic to talk about. And you being the expert, you've written the book about it, so why not talk to you? So talk us through this, Jeff. How do we build relationships? Because I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, are hiding behind, like I said, their phones and the emails. And this social skill, which was, honestly, I don't know what happened to it. It was it was without doubt you had to have that skill of being able to go and talk to people, has disappeared all of a sudden, and we have no relationships. We have hello, bye on email. How do we start? So how does someone who's born after the 2000, specifically after 2000, those are the millennials, actually who really do need to build their life together, how do they start building relationships? Because even on LinkedIn, you're connected. LinkedIn doesn't mean you know the person on LinkedIn. You just connected.
That's exactly right. And I think millennials are not going to like this, but the answer is effort, right? Effort, time, energy. There's a whole chapter in my book that talks about LinkedIn and how I was one of those individuals who thought, well, I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, therefore, if I'm looking for a job, you're going to obviously help me get a job. Or if I send you a message saying, hey, I see you're hiring, I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, so I should be at the top of your list of, potential candidates, that's completely meaningless. I have, I don't know, however many thousands of followers or connections on LinkedIn.
I have about over 15,000, and I promise you, I don't know how,
Exactly.
no 1% of those people, yeah.
And so, but if I got a message from, any random person, hey, Jeff, glad we're connected. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to ignore it most of the time. But if it's somebody who has put effort and time into building a relationship with me, that's not just one-sided, like I want to try and sell you something, that's a very different story. And I'll give you an example of what this, how this translated for me in a lot of ways is there are people that I've met and connected with over the years in my professional life. And I noticed on LinkedIn, and this is maybe 8 years ago, something like that. Somebody had posted that they were going to be speaking at some event, that was not too far from where I live, in the marketing world, which is, the world that I'm in. And I went and I showed up. And when he saw me and he came over and talked, he's like, hey, Jeff, I didn't know you were going to be here. And I said, look, I saw you posted on LinkedIn that you were going to be speaking here. I always find what you say fascinating. So I wanted to come and see what you had to say. Here's what I thought, I would love to get some time with you at a later date to bounce some ideas, to talk a little bit about what I heard and see if I can just pick your brain a little bit. And we met again, for lunch, about a month later. And this person has turned into one of my biggest mentors and advocates as I started my journey as a business owner, because that was the path that he had taken many years before I did. And he even kind of comes back to it and mentions at times to me just the fact that I went and showed up to hear what he had to say, to learn, not to tell him like, I didn't message him in advance, I'm going to be there. Like, it wasn't about me. But then to say to him after, hey, I would love to learn more about what you talked about. Do you have time for me? And now we've forged an incredible relationship because it took effort and communication for me to go and do that, because I wanted to learn more from him. I had a genuine interest in learning and growing my career. And I'm so glad that I went.
I think that's a great story, and it really highlights what's missing in this day and age. The effort required. I mean, I don't even know how they study at universities now. I think post-COVID is becoming even worse. They have the lectures online and the talk and whatnot. And I'm dyslexic, so I found out I was dyslexic in my first year of my law degree. From second year onwards, I was there's so much sophistication now. But at the time, I just sit at the front and I would record everything that the teacher was saying. I had special permission for that. I had that recording, yet the benefit I received by interacting, by being present, even if it's a lecture theatre, not a seminar, it was a lecture theatre and there were like 100 of us in there, I still got more out of it because we were able to ask questions and interact with the person there. And that's just a small example of how things have changed. And now when I look at people, how they study, it blows my mind. How do you build a relationship with your tutors, your teachers, and how do you learn? And that's just one aspect of the life. If you imagine if you're trying to build a business or other things, the idea of turning up somewhere and putting the effort and time to have lunch, to have coffee, or to speak in person, not over the phone, in person, it's a foreign concept now. It's like, oh, who's got the time? You. If you value relationships and you want to build a relationship.
That's exactly it. I have at any given time anywhere from 3 to 5 clients in my business that I serve as that fractional CMO. In each of those cases, I put in the agreements that I have with them that within the first 3 months, and ideally within the first month, that I do an in-person visit. And it's not because, I want to just show up and, have them say, oh, let's take you out for a nice dinner or whatever. It's because I can learn so much more about an organization and the people that I'm working with by physically being there versus the hour or two on a Zoom, and then, the next week, an hour or two on a Zoom, or the phone calls or texts or Slack messages. But there is so much value in human to human, face to face, collective interaction that you cannot get elsewhere. And so while it takes me away from my desk, and it means I'm kind of then now out of thinking about my other clients when I'm off visiting another one, and that is a big challenge that I'm always trying to balance. It is so vitally important for me to get that face-to-face time. And I've been able to do it with every client that I have, except for one so far. And that's only because they're located in Malta, and I'm still trying to get out there, but I will. But it's just such a huge, impactful way to, it could take 3 weeks, 3 months of Zoom calls to reach the outcome that I could get in 3 hours of face-to-face.
I agree.
And so it's worth that investment of time, energy, and effort.
I agree. I definitely agree. I'm thinking about my other business, and I think I was so used to doing business online that when I moved into the other space, I had to think differently. Initially, I was thinking like an online entrepreneur, and it's a different mindset, it's a different ball game because everyone's all over the planet.
Yep.
But when I moved into a brick and mortar business, I had to think differently, and I realized initially my marketing efforts were based around LinkedIn marketing and Google Ads and and I realized very, very quickly that my audience wasn't sitting on Google Ads. They weren't listening to Facebook. They weren't going to go onto Facebook. We never did Facebook ads anyway for that market, but they weren't going to listen to ad space and whatever else and Google Ads and so forth. It had to be a different kind of marketing strategy that had to be implemented. And that too, which was physically present, which meant we had to make appointments, get good to know, and go physically turn up to X, Y, and Z, and get a point across that normally I could get across in 2 minutes in a Zoom call, but we need to spend that hour traveling and 2 hours sitting talking to them. But that would actually result in a sale or a build of a relationship that we were never going to be able to do over a Zoom or via email or via phone calls because it just wasn't working. And I realized how important that is because when you go and communicate to people in person, it's not just a verbal communication, it's 80% of communication, I think maybe more than that, is non-verbal. So you get to know the body language, the energy, the person, what's important to them, how they behave, how they react, how they interact with you, and they give you what information they allude to. That is all obvious to you when you go meet people in person, whereas I think that's a dying art for some reason. We live in
Yeah.
isolation and we like to remain in our little, in our little cocoons, and we don't want to venture out and meet the world. I don't know why that is, but I think it's also very lonely because I think it becomes very stressful because you're not able to understand what the other person wants, and you can have 10 Zoom meetings and not get anywhere, and then have one physical meeting and give a breakthrough.
It's my grandfather was my hero in limitless ways. War hero. He was, did all sorts of amazing things in his life. He was a paper salesman in New York who sold paper products to bakeries. And growing up, he would come to our house for dinner. He and my grandmother would come to my house for dinner every Tuesday night. And the things he would tell me every single time and every single week, and all he was trying to teach me as a grandfather was really two things. One, how to have a very strong professional handshake. He was like the king of the handshake. And two, why you need to go and see people every day face to face and just, work hard, but engage and interact with people. And so that has stuck with me my entire life in that, and granted, Zoom and all of this was not a thing, for him. And, if he were alive, like, he would be massively overwhelmed because he couldn't even set the VCR. But he taught me, and every week would be reinforcing this message of, he drove from place to place to place because he wanted to see his clients. He could have called, he could have, picked up a phone. Hey, what do you need this week? But he wanted to see them in person because this way he stayed top of mind for them. And they knew that he cared enough to want to come and see them every single week. So he never lost a client. He never lost business because they knew he was equally as invested in their success and their business as they were. And he showed it because he was physically there every single week. And that still sits and lives with me.
And isn't that amazing how, as we've progressed with technology, we've become detached from human interaction, yet the need for it remains.
Without a doubt.
We have the need to meet people. We have the social needs. I mean, handshake is one of them. I'm being a woman. It's normally I don't know what it is, and I find it very insulting when people don't shake my hands properly. I mean, as a Muslim woman, initially I didn't shake hands and I refrained from it. But in a professional environment, I feel it's necessary, especially to get a point across that I know I mean business. So I shake hands as it should be, standing up, really firm handshake. Now, what I've learned in that process is you can gauge the individual before you very, very quickly how they shake your hands. I know if someone's treating me as their equal when they shake my hands with equal firmness and they do it with out of respect and look me direct in the eyes. And there are others who just sort of take my hand like this and do this. And I'm like, what are you doing? And there are people who would just shake my hand in a very soft way. Now, that tells me it's not because anything to do with the fact that I'm a woman. It's just he's a very weak man. And that sounds horrible, but I can gauge a lot about an individual just the way he shakes hands. Now, a lot of females are also, I think I'm one of the few females that goes ahead and shakes a hand quite forcefully. But then again, I suppose my character is quite different. I'm quite an alpha female, running a business, being an entrepreneur, whatever else. I take the leadership role very seriously, but not many women do. And the women that do actually do shake their hands the way I do. So I think, isn't it interesting? And that you can't gauge that on a Zoom. You can't gauge that interaction on a phone call. You need physical presence.
You do. And it's, I've been as part of a sales organization, now as a, entrepreneur, I'm always, selling, even though it's not the part of my job I love the most. But you can tell when I meet someone face to face and I'm talking to them about my business, what I do, the role that I play, what I'm looking to hopefully accomplish in a partnership with them and their company. Within that first usually 20 to 30 seconds, so from the handshake to the introduction, I can tell, are they taking this meeting because they feel like they had to? Are they taking it because someone kind of made them? Are they taking it because they, were kind of interested, but, we're not really sure? Or they are genuinely looking forward to and excited to hear what it is that I have to say and why I'm there. And I'm not always 100% accurate, right? Like people are different and they have their own unique ways of doing introductions and shaking hands and all of those things. But it's a very telling thing because facial expressions in person and body language, because right now you can only see me from, the shoulders up.
Yeah.
But body language is completely different in person and it tells you a lot. So that's why I love the in-person meeting. I love going to see clients because those are the things that take good relationships and make them great, and that also take non-existing relationships and build them into something, right? Like you can't ignore the person right in front of you, but I certainly could, be playing in another browser window right now and you wouldn't know,
Yeah.
right? So like there's so much that in-person can do that we just can't get with our, virtual connections.
Do you think in-person meetings and building, when you're trying to build a relationship, so we established that to build a relationship, you have to have physical meetings as much as possible. But do you also believe, as I've begun to sort of understand, you create a bias as well. When you meet people in physically, it probably wasn't the case beforehand because everyone used to go and meet people in person. It was just the done
Right.
thing. Now, because it's become not the norm, it's become exceptional. Now, when you go out your way and meet people in person, or when you receive a letter through the post, like proper letter, not just a bill, you're like, oh wow, it's a letter because it's a novelty now. There's a novelty element
Yeah.
to it which wasn't there before. And therefore, you stand out more when you do things which are against the norm. So before, going out and meeting 10 clients was the norm. So everyone did it, no big deal. Now you go out and you meet 10 people on the road in person. You're like, oh, works really hard. She works really hard. She really pays attention. Or he's really working hard. He came to see us and he's going over to see, someone else in Bradford or whatever else. And it's the image that, oh, the person's always on the road. Wow, they work really hard. I can easily run my business from home and not ever
Right.
turn up to my business to my premises because it's about 3 hours away. I personally, I don't want to move out there, and because I have young children, I can't stay overnight either. So I drive there and I drive back, and I'll drive 3 to 4 hours there, 3 to 4 hours back on the same day, doing 4 to 5 hours work in the premises. So I spend more time on the road than I am in the office, but I need to be in the office.
Yes.
And I noticed even when I'm on holiday, whatever, because I still do the work and I'm on holiday because it's me, or working through the phone or the Zoom or whatever. I'm less productive. I have less control when I'm not physically present, even though something 4 or 5 hours, 2, 3 times a week. It's still that physical presence makes a difference, and because that's where I'm building that relationship with my team members.
That's
And if
exactly right.
if it's so important for me to build that, be physically present, to be building those relationships with my team members, is equally important for those who don't even know me, who don't
Yep.
get paid by me, who don't give a damn whether it's buy from me or someone else. They care about what products or service they receive, not whether it's from me or someone else. So it's even more important that I make sure that I build those relationships with those individuals, and that too through physical presence, and at least be physically present at some point with them so they know I'm available. I'm not just going to hide behind the email. What would your advice be to someone who's who's beginning the business now, and even if they are millennials, by the way, but if they are looking to build a business and they're serious about it and think, okay, what's the first step? Do I do I book a meeting? Do I take them out for lunch? What do I do? What in your experience has been the best way to start building a relationship?
I think everyone's different, right? Everybody wants something else. There are still plenty of people who don't want to go for a lunch. They think it's a waste of their time. They don't want to go for the coffee. I think the most important thing is to make an effort and make the effort not self-serving. And what I mean by that is I have people that I've, connected with, that I've built relationships with over the years. And they often laugh at me because I'm one of these unique people. I will call them instead of text, instead of email. And, I will call them and they'll answer the phone. They're like, "Hey, Jeff, what's going on?" And my response is, "Not much. I just haven't talked to you in a while. Wanted to check in. How's your summer?" And we talk a little bit and then they're like, "Okay, but why'd you call?" And I'm like, "That's it. I called just because to say I haven't talked to you in a little bit. Would love to just catch up as humans to just see how are you doing." I didn't call with an agenda. I didn't call to then say, "Hey, great, how was your summer?" Yeah, great. Okay, now here's why I called. Can you do this for me? Can you help me with this? I don't go into it with the mindset of my goal is anything other than putting my time and effort into building the relationships that I have by showing that the relationships are more than transactional. They cannot be transactional. So sometimes it's, "Hey, are you around? Do you want to get a cup of coffee?" Great. Sometimes it's, "Do you want to go for a walk?" I love the walk. You meet up with a friend, a colleague, a mentor, somebody, and say, "Hey, it's a beautiful day. Why don't we just, meet up and we can go for a walk or a hike or something to get outside and just connect." And some people love that. But those are the things that I put my time and effort into, because when their phone rings or they get a message from me wanting to connect, they're also not sitting there thinking, "Oh, Jeff needs something."
Yeah.
Because as soon as they start thinking that I'm only reaching out because I need something, they stop taking my call.
Yeah.
But because I'm reaching out just to be a human who wants to connect with another human, they take my call and we have those solid relationships that are built on trust. And so that's my advice. Put in the effort to build relationships that are not transactional in nature.
I love that. I think that's probably the best way to move forward, because I think either be of service to someone first, and that's and putting the law of reciprocity back in your favor, or just build a relationship just to see how they are, just to make sure they're okay, and the way you just done, without an agenda. So either way, you're building a relationship without an agenda behind it, and making the time and effort to build that relationship without the agenda. And I find when you don't have an agenda, when you are just open to building that relationship, you promote people without even thinking. And I do that. I mean, I normally try to, if I have a good lawyer or something like that, or I know someone's services are needed, I would recommend the person even when the person isn't present. And especially if someone's built a relationship with them and I know I'm friends with them, and I have two people in mind, and they could be equally good, the person I'm going to refer or recommend first is the one I've built a relationship with. I know I'm doing that. So obviously other people will have a similar way of looking upon things. If they can recommend me or they can recommend the guy next door, they'll think, okay, how has Gull interacted with me? How is she? Subconsciously, maybe, but they will. And they think, even though our skill sets may be equal, they think, I think Gull's better. I think I'll recommend Gull because I trust her more. And it's all about the like and trust factor, which also marketing is all about, like and trust factor. So when you build relationships, you're building that like and trust factor, and that's what helps you to build your business. And that's my understanding from this conversation. On that note, we're going to wrap up. Tell us, Jeff, so if wrapping this episode up, what would be your passing comments to someone when you answer the question, how to build relationships to build businesses?
Don't think about yourself. Think about them. To build a great relationship, you need to be thinking about the value that you can bring to someone else, not the value that they're going to bring to you. And to your point that you just made just a few moments ago, if you focus on a transaction, if you think about what they're going to do for you, you're already missing the point, because the best relationships mean that at some point, even when it's unexpected, you're going to get that phone call or email that says, I want to introduce you to this person who I think can help your business or might be in need of your services. And the only reason they made that introduction is because of the relationship you've already built with that person that didn't have a transaction in mind, that wasn't one-sided. So relationships are a two-way street. They require time, they require effort. And so if you focus on that and building those relationships from the ground up, you will see that the fruits of the labor will come in a variety of different ways down the road.
Wonderful. On that note, we will wrap up. So tell us, Jeff, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you on the internet?
Perfect. You can find me at misnomer.co. Feel free to send me an email, jeff@misnomer.co, or I am on LinkedIn as well.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the links that Jeff has just mentioned will be on the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below in the description section, we'll have the links for Jeff to go check him out and see how he can help you to scale up or build your startup. So do check him out and let us know what you thought about today's episode. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jeff. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've had a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for listening to me and Jeff today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.